about you now. What up?
Welcome in, guys.
All right, so Captain America.
Um, so, I've like fallen out of the whole Marvel universe lately. I haven't kept up in like well over a year, I would say. I went from like watching every movie and every show to now I don't think I've seen anything for a full year. I haven't even seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Yeah.
The third one?
Exactly.
Which
But
one was the jail one?
one.
Oh.
But so yeah, I don't know if I wouldn't say it's got me like necessarily like excited to watch more Marvel stuff though, to be honest.
Yeah. They definitely had a drop off, but the idea is that they apparently like refocused. Like they dropped for a lot of reasons Jonathan Majors, and they got a new villain and a whole thing. Like it was sporadic. Like they went with the idea of more being better, but it wasn't. So, when they expanded to more movies and more TV shows, it just made it harder to keep up with it. But the idea is that like there's even a meme right now of people saying like the MCU is going downhill, and then every time they have a good project, it's the MCU is back. So it's like, the MCU's back, no it's trash. MCU's back, no it's trash. It's just less critically acclaimed now than it was before, and yeah, the hype just isn't there the same way. But stuff like this is pretty good. Stuff like Captain America 4 coming out, it looks interesting. Like you were asking some questions. Harrison Ford, he's actually replacing William Hurt because he passed away. The actor who played Thunderbolt Ross.
Oh yeah, okay.
William Hurt, he died, so Harrison Ford is replacing him. And then
Well, the original General Ross was that guy from the Dodge Ram commercials. What's his name?
Super deep voice. I just forgot it.
Yeah.
This September.
Yeah, that kind of.
He's in everything that's country based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget his name too. He's a cool actor.
Yeah.
Good things are built out of wood. How do you move wood? Truck.
So what's happened now basically is like Thunderbolt Ross. So he was like a general and all that shit, but now he's the president. And you asked like he's Red Hawk. Like yeah, Thunderbolt Ross in the comics is Red Hawk.
Okay.
But that's in Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
So the old Thunderbolt is in Captain America, and they're doing Thunderbolt?
So this is actually kind of confusing for some people who don't know like the comics. Yeah, so the Thunderbolts movie, they're gonna take a different angle with it for why they're called the Thunderbolts. But in the comics, they are Thaddeus Ross's like unit, their team. That's why they're called the Thunderbolts. He brings them together. But in the movie, you can tell they're gonna distance it from like Thunderbolt Ross. So that's kind of the idea.
Yeah.
What you think of the Thunderbolt trailer?
That one I'm less excited for.
I'm more excited about that one. I don't know.
Really?
I like dumb stuff. So
Okay.
it looks plenty dumb.
Well, for me, it's partly I haven't seen the Black Widow movie.
Oh, yeah, you're all over the place.
Yeah, so I have like no connection to like half that cast basically. The only one I care about is Bucky, but I don't know if he's enough to make me care about a movie.
Did you see Falcon and Winter Soldier?
The show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah, that's the thing. Right after Endgame, I went and watched all those shows, like the 4 shows that came out right away after, but since then, like nothing. Like I watched WandaVision, the Captain America show, Loki.
Okay.
What was the other one?
Loki the Time one?
Yeah.
There's a lot, but yeah, it's a lot to keep up with. Like I haven't watched everything. I watched mostly everything. I never was gonna watch Moon Knight. Fuck Moon Knight.
Oh, Moon Knight. Yeah, I watched Moon Knight. I liked Moon Knight.
I don't care about the character.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Um, which is kind of saying something. I work in mental health, and his whole thing is like he's mentally fucked up. Whatever, you're pathetic. Anyway.
I was watching the thing. I'm like, it didn't get any of that.
No, but legitimately, like, all you gotta do is see a few things just so you can stay in line. Like, Black Widow is a decent enough movie, so you're wondering about Taskmaster. Taskmaster, she's in that one, or I say she, I mean he. But you know,
Thought they did a gender swap.
yeah. So
That woke stuff.
mind
Yeah,
virus.
yeah.
No, but so yeah, that one should be interesting. It looks pretty fun. It looks like their own version of kind of like Suicide Squad, but it'll probably be better. The key thing there, and this is like if you guys want this spoiler, that you saw that regular ass dude named Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Bob is the key to all things. Bob is pretty important.
Who was the guy in Deadpool that didn't have any powers? He had the mustache.
Not Depender.
Oh.
I forget. He just had like they just called him by his
Oh.
first name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was Bob
Phil?
too. Phil sounds right. Yeah. Phil sounds right.
So, you guys ever heard of a character called the Sentry?
Oh yeah. That's Bob?
That's Bob.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
There's no way they bring Sentry in though.
I mean, it looks like they're doing it, but then they fucked up other things before.
Yeah, I feel like if anything, they're just gonna like tease him like that, but never actually like have a full Sentry character in their universe. He's actually like more. He might be more usable than like if they just had like a Superman though, at least for Marvel, because like Sentry actually is like somewhat of an interesting character. Like, 'cause isn't his whole thing like he doesn't really care about like the world?
So first off, to catch you up, Sentry is just like Marvel Superman.
Okay.
So he's like mega OP because basically the DC universe and in the Marvel universe, Marvel is a lot more grounded. So like DC characters could like whoop Marvel's ass, to be honest, if they like collided. Like Superman could like beat like all of the Avengers. For context, so like the idea of the Sentry is you take Superman level power and you bring him to Marvel, and he's pretty much wiping the floor with 90% of the characters. The other thing is, he's very interesting because, again, going into mental health, he's schizophrenic, and there's two sides to the Sentry. There's the Sentry, and then there's the evil side of the Sentry called the Void. Bob or Robert, he's literally always terrified of the Void coming out because the Void is like ultra powerful, just like the Sentry. So even when he's doing good things as the Sentry, when he flips, then it's like all hell breaks loose. So basically, he's like always either in a trance. He's usually locked up somewhere. Like the heroes are like terrified of him. They don't want him to like. They don't want him to even be Sentry because the Void could come out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a worse version of the Hulk, basically. Like, oh, what if he gets pissed off at us? Like, nah, like it's bad. The Void is scary as shit. It's actually a scary image. Like if you Google the Void, I think it's like terrifying. So, yeah, I'd be interested to see if they do all of that with them.
Yeah. That's kind of what I was getting at is Marvel, the way they've done their whole like universe and stuff, it having like some ultra powerful character. They already have a couple of those and they don't really use them, and then the whole time you're just wondering like what the hell they're doing. Like where's Captain Marvel, where was Thor for all this other stuff. So
On another planet, doing other planet stuff.
yeah.
I don't think about that too much.
Basically, yeah.
I still remember when Avengers 1 came out, the idea, like, people asked, like, now that they all know each other, like, are they gonna always be in each other's movies? And they're like, no. And they're like, don't worry. Like, Feige's like, don't worry, we'll always explain, like, where they're at. They don't even, like, try.
Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of a cliche now, but I do like the group superhero or like the group action, like Suicide Squad or like what Thunderbolt looks like and all the other ones. I feel like it works really good for a single movie, but it doesn't have as much potential for a series. Like, you can follow Spider-Man for like 10 movies and still have interesting ones, but I feel like with those groups, they lend themselves more to like one-offs. But I do like them though.
Yeah. They're all right. the the Suicide Squad, the more recent one. I like that one. Yeah, but I'd give it like an 8 out of 10 or something. Though like it's not like my favorite movie ever.
I really enjoyed the Suicide Squad.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was like probably my favorite superhero movie that came out that year until like No Way Home came out. Like I thought it was better than Black Widow. All those came out in 2021. So
Yeah.
yeah, but Cap, we'll see. There's a lot of interesting stuff with the Cap one too, just because like there's like a lot of like could be controversies. You know, we got this heightened political state that we're in America. It's kind of a political thriller like that. You got Black Cap now.
It was bold of them to include January 6th in the beginning of the movie.
No, and the last wild part is, and I think we even talked about this a little bit. There's a Palestinian, is it a Palestinian superhero that's in it? She's in the trailer, or I think she's from Israel.
I think it's Israeli. Yeah.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah. I don't fully remember though, so it could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Israel superhero.
In the comics, it's not subtle. Her
Yeah.
superhero outfit is just the flag.
Yeah, it's just the Star of David in blue and white.
Yeah. Rough times. They'll probably do something interesting with it, maybe.
She's in which trailer? The Thunderbolts or
No, she's
Captain
just in
America?
that Captain America one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's definitely featured in the movie. They're not running away from it, so we'll see how that turns out.
Okay. Damn. Well, on to the election stuff.
Election, no assassination talk.
We'll be back right after this.
Believe that anybody
feels the way I do about you now.
Now a word from our sponsors.
Wendy's.
My Pillow. Best pillows on the market. Get them. Use code CamCam at checkout for 15% off.
Motorola, Nike,
Yeah.
Reebok,
Yeah.
Sheen. Is that Carhartt? Is that Carhartt?
I have no clue.
All right, then not Carhartt.
Give us all the sponsors. Give them all.
You know what's better than regular Coke? Diet.
And Raid Shadow Legends.
Yes. Give us that Raid Shadow Legends money.
If I have to see one more goddamn Raid Shadow Legends commercial.
Skip.
No,
skip.
but
Open
we
bar,
will
pull
take
back.
your money and we will advertise your product happily.
Not well, but
Yeah.
Ready?
Yeah.
I don't believe that anybody feels the way I do about you now.
Welcome back.
Welcome.
So the election. It happened.
It happened.
It happened.
I was about to say
It did. It did happen.
it. That's about as positive as we can get. It's just that factual thing. It happened.
It took us about 5 days to even want to talk about it.
What happened with the House of Representatives?
They still don't know.
That's still out?
Yeah.
How do you know all the other ones but not that one?
California and Arizona suck at counting votes in a timely manner.
I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. House is very close. Still, I believe as of right now, there's still a chance Dems hold a majority in the House, but it'll be close, and I don't think we're favored to hold the House at this point. So there is that. But it's so close that they still haven't called like a couple races.
I mentioned this like a little bit ago, right before you showed up. I think I'm more alcohol than man right now. The amount of Budweiser in my system.
Bud heavy.
From really Monday, to be honest. I've been drinking since Monday because I had Tuesday off. Through every single day of my life to this point. Alcohol for days. Just purified darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Was that yesterday we went to Rockford?
2 days ago.
2 days ago, me and Jalen were at a gay bar, and I asked him if he wanted something, and he said Budweiser, and I went to order a Bud Heavy, a Budweiser, and the bartender did not know what I was talking about. I had to repeat myself. So, you know.
Well, I looked it up just so we can, we're not spreading misinformation on the internet.
It's not like that matters anymore.
No, it doesn't. There are 12 uncalled races still. Iowa, Maine, Colorado, Ohio, Oregon, California, Arizona, California, Washington, Alaska, California. They're all super tight, but yeah, Dems currently have 204, Republicans have 212. 218 is the magic number to have a majority. So Dems need 14 seats for a majority, and Republicans need 6. So it's actually not possible for us to hold a majority yet. But the closer we get to that number, the better.
A weird way how I've been like kind of working through all of this emotionally for the past week is because the only thing I can think of, that's like even closely related to this level of grimness, not even in our lifetime, but fictionally, ironically, is like Avengers Endgame.
We're in the end game now.
Legitimately, like in like that's the level of dreariness. Like I've been just playing like the goddamn musical score from the first few scenes of that movie when everyone's still sad and it's 5 years in, because that's what it feels like. Like there's nothing you can do. You just have to find a way to push through. Yeah, it feels pretty bad. Everything's going downhill.
Senate is kind of similar, 46 Dem seats to 52 Republican seats. Obviously, the majority number is 50. Still 2 uncalled races, one in Arizona where Democrats up by quite a bit, but with only 87% in. But then in Pennsylvania, we're down by a little bit with 98% in. So as of now, it's looking like a 47-53 split in the Senate. But some good news is this could have been way, way worse. Basically, I believe every Democrat running for senator in swing states won, except for one, which is like incredible.
So you're telling me, hey, listen, it sucks you got stabbed, but it could have been a gunshot?
What it looks like as of right now is that because the Dems campaigned so much in all these swing states this election cycle, it saved 5 Senate seats, basically. So this could be like a 41 to 50, whatever split Senate, where, I mean, they would basically have impunity to nearly pass whatever they would want, almost enough to get through a filibuster.
I mean, I feel like they pretty much have that now, right?
They don't have enough to get through a filibuster. They could just get rid of the filibuster if they want to.
Yeah, that's more so what I mean.
Didn't we want to get rid of the filibuster a while ago?
Yeah.
Now with hindsight, it's probably a good thing that we didn't.
I would still be fine with the filibuster being gone. I really would, because it's not like democratic at all. Like there's nothing democratic about the filibuster. Legislation could pass, with a 59 to 41 margin in the Senate and just not be able to break through that filibuster 60 vote margin, which is insane. In the way, I mean, the Senate itself is already unconstitutional. Like, it's not unconstitutional, but it's not democratic at all. So just adding more stuff to it, making it less democratic is, I just don't like it. The Senate's always going to be hard for Dems to win with the current makeup of the country. So there's just more red states than there are blue states. So, yeah.
At the current moment, with 50 states.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the thing, though. There's 28 red states, I think, that are like always red. So we would need to add like 3 states minimum to like make up the difference.
DC.
Yeah.
Canada.
Might as well. Yeah.
They probably wouldn't like that.
We could split them into like 10 different states.
In In Latin America, there's talk about countries joining together. Like there's a whole map going around where it's like instead of being a bunch of different countries, if they were just like 5 or 6 different ones, and then each country's GDP would be on par with all like the dominant countries.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we do it with Canada?
Yeah. We kind of already are in like an economic block with Canada,
Make
though.
it official. Bring Alaska home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It up.
Yeah.
If Canada wants.
Mm-hmm. If they want.
Nah. Take them by
Probably
force.
not after this election. They won't want that.
Nah, lock them into marriage.
But no, I know you, Jalen, you haven't kept up with anything post-election at all. Do you want some of that news broken to you?
I guess I should no longer live in the dark, but I know that whatever's next is just sucks more. You know, I mean, I started to journal. This election did a couple things to me. One of the things I started to journal first couple days, like the night of, the next night, and a key thing is like I'm very envious of my brother, one of my brothers who's just like one of those people who's just like politically ignorant towards anything around him. And I am very much envious of those kinds of people in the world right now who like it's just like, oh, the election happened, I don't really care that much because they don't feel the same thing right now that others do.
Yeah.
They're gonna feel the effects because we all are, but it just doesn't resonate emotionally in the same way. And right now, that is like the better spot to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's my brother. I was just with him last night, and well, he cannot vote, so he gets a little bit of a pass. But he was like, "So I heard there was an election. Don't know anything about it."
Yep. My whole family's super political, so so there's no getting away. But
Are your sisters?
yeah,
They are.
yeah.
They don't seem.
No, but we've talked about it like 2 or 3 times since it happened, even.
Because you were bringing them on board, like, what is it, about like a year or 2 years ago? You said they started really asking you questions.
Mm-hmm.
Must have felt like a proud big brother in that moment.
A little bit, yeah. The thing is with them though, they're a lot more what's the word? So I don't insult them. um, they don't like, I would say, maybe dedicate so much time to political stuff. So like, I imagine what their night looks like is like they go home and watch like one show for like half an hour to an hour or something. That's kind of it, and then they disengage and leave it alone. So like, I just piled on a bunch of shows to them that I'm sure they haven't watched. So yeah, but no. All that being said, things are as bad as they could be. Basically, day one, right after, they just kind of came out and confirmed everything they campaigned on. Some of it even worse than like what they were campaigning on.
They're into denaturalization.
Mm-hmm.
People who became citizens revoking their citizenship.
Yep. I told you about this, but Trump basically said he's going to use the full force of the U.S. military to stop drug cartels in Mexico. And that's one thing to say that, but then he also said they're going to use the Navy to blockade all of like Mexico's imports and stuff. So like it sounds like we're just going to like occupy Mexico for some time.
Mexico's getting Texas back. Mexico's getting Texas back.
The wild thing though is like, won't, I'm sure at this point these drug cartels have expanded further south than Mexico as well. And if they haven't, that would just be like where they would go next, I would assume. But
Imagine if there was not a black market for drugs.
that too, that would help. Not even to mention, for the listeners, most fentanyl, I believe it's like 95%, does not come through the southern border. It comes over here like through legal ports of access, not illegally through the southern border. So that does nothing to stop fentanyl.
It's used in hospitals.
Yeah.
As long as you dose it right, it's not dangerous. It's just a grain of sand of it is gonna make you OD.
Hmm. I mean, a lot of drugs have medical uses too. Like cocaine's actually used in like
Dental surgery.
yeah. But yeah, no, it's like the worst timeline.
Yeah, the dark timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
He actually did now I forget, but he actually did say one thing out of the like 10 things where I was like, "Oh, that's actually like not a bad thing. That would actually be a good thing." Um oh yeah, he said another thing was he was going to like I don't know how to phrase it. They were going to like move all homeless people out of like cities and stuff. Um but then some of the stuff he's actually proposing for homeless people, at least what he said, I was like, that's actually like not bad. He was like fully talking about like housing them and like giving them like food and stuff, like something that would cost the country probably billions of dollars, and he was just like openly saying it. But you know, how much do you actually trust like this process to be handled like humanely? That's kind of up in the air. I don't remember the full tweet. It could be worse than what I read too. But no, basically everything else is worse. The second he got elected, like Stephen Miller came out and was like, "Yeah, we're doing Project 2025." Like immediately, he was just like, "Yep, nope, we're doing that." So yeah, it's about as bad as it could be.
I try to use those phrases, like darkest just before the dawn type shit, but I mean, we're locked in for 4 years of hell. I mean, people are going to die. That's like the worst part. And my journals, and this is also just what I've been saying for the last few days to people in person who bring me into this conversation. Is like I'm less even worried about for myself personally. Technically, I'm a target as well. I feel worse for other people. Women are already dying over the last 2 years since the fall of Roe. Now it's like exponentially worse, right? I feel for women. I feel for the LGBTQ plus community. I feel for Hispanics. Those are the people that I feel pain for the most.
Mhm.
That's kind of what irks me because people are going to die.
Yeah.
The tariff and deportation mix could play out very poorly.
Oh yeah.
Like, are we gonna have a famine?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really seen them talk too much about the tariff stuff since they got in, but they've obviously been talking a lot about the deportation stuff. But the tariff stuff they've been pretty quiet on. They have talked about cutting a bunch of the federal like budget and functions and bureaucracies though. Um, so yeah, there's just a lot of things that they've talked about doing that won't play well with each other at all.
Yeah.
Like even just doing one of these things like mass deportations could collapse the economy, but combining that with also cutting a bunch of federal agencies and tariffs would bring about something along the lines of like a new Great Depression. um yeah, I saw someone else the other day was talking about how we don't import any food, we make all of it. And then someone else corrected them and was like, we import $200 billion worth of food. And imagine a tariff. He's floated a bunch of numbers out there, anywhere from like 20% up to like 200% on $200 billion worth of goods. Is, yeah, a little nutty. But yeah, a couple other things a little unique with the election is because they won the popular vote and basically swept every swing state, they're like taking this as like a mandate that like this is what the American people want. This is like all that stuff. We're gonna use this as a mandate and like really push for everything we campaigned on, kind of thing. But in reality, this was actually a very, very close election. Basically, well,
Doesn't feel that way.
I thought all the states that did not vote would have won. Like, if you counted all the people who did not vote as a vote, like over half the states would have gone to that.
in reality, this in all the swing states and stuff, I was seeing numbers. This is actually closer than the 2016 election. Granted, Hillary won the popular vote in that one, but swing state wise, this was very, very close.
As the time honored phrase goes, close only counts in horseshoes and
Yeah.
hand grenades. Who gives a shit now?
Well,
Close just decided, very close versus you actually winning
for sure.
determines people's lives. So
The just trying to take some positive takeaways out of this. Basically, she got more votes in swing states than Joe Biden did in 2020. So even though turnout was lower, she did get more votes out of virtually every swing state than Joe Biden did. So it shows that all the campaigning and groundwork they were doing, which was a lot, paid off. It did work. So that's one takeaway, is that still works. We can still like build off of ground game and stuff like that. And the downside of that is that Trump's campaign had virtually no ground game from reporting, and they still won. So there's some takeaways to take from it, and there's some stuff where you just left like, how did this happen? But yeah.
It's hard for Russians to go knocking door to door. Easier to defeat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, in all the report, Elon Musk and Charlie Kirk handled Trump's ground game, and reports started coming out of like, I think it was Wisconsin, of Elon Musk's ground game stuff, and they were just shoving people into like the back of a van, giving them like insane quotas to hit that were like unachievable. I forget the numbers, but I want to say it was like 25% of like people, giving you a affirmation that they were going to vote kind of thing. And which, from what I've heard, that's like unheard of in that kind of stuff. But also on top of that, they weren't told who they were campaigning for until they were like on site. So they had like no messaging that they were like going into this like knowing or thinking about. They were just thrown out there, told to talk to people about Donald Trump, and that was kind of it. And if they didn't hit their quotas, they weren't gonna have their like hotels paid for, their food paid for. It was like insane. They just threw people out there, and it was probably like a couple dozen, which is insane for a national election.
I mean, does that not check out for Elon Musk?
No, it does. 100%. 100% it checks out. It's just wild that it didn't seem to matter. In reports like leading up to the election were all like positive, like, oh, the ground game's bad. They have no ground game. There's nobody out there, especially in swing states. And the whole Democratic Party was going hard at swing states. They had Obama out in every other state. Tim Walz was out. Harris was obviously out. Like, they had pretty much all the big Democratic heavy hitters out. Some of them were a detriment, though. Bill Clinton and Richie Torres. But going to Michigan, speaking to a lot of Muslim voters and telling them that essentially Palestinian lives didn't matter, like 3 days before the election or whatever that was. So some missteps too, of course, but definitely still some positive stuff to take from it. The ground game worked in turning out more voters, at least. Yeah.
that's a frivolous win.
Knowing that you can turn out more voters than Joe Biden did, though, is a good thing, I would say. That was the highest turnout we had ever seen. And that was in a year where, absentee ballots and mail-in ballots were everywhere, so turnout was always going to be high in that election. It's a lot easier to vote if you just get a ballot for it. And to be honest, Dems have always appealed to regular people more than Republicans, except that changed in this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a level of just like a lot of things don't matter the same way anymore. So like you can say that, like you can say one thing, but results show another, or you can say one thing and it just doesn't matter anymore.
Well, I was just saying in the context of 2020, because if you get a mail-in ballot and you see a Democrat and a Republican on your ballot but have no idea about anything, you're probably more likely to vote for that Democrat in past elections at least. So
I didn't read the Bernie quote, but apparently you really like this statement.
mm-hmm.
I know AOC released something. Did you like what she said?
She talked for like an hour, so I did not watch all that.
But you read Bernie's entire manifesto?
Yeah. And from what I've heard, she like echoed kind of the same sentiment. But yeah, basically the Dems lost working class people, and they need to reorganize the party around appealing to working class people. And I agree 100%. Middle class is different than working class. Working class is better phrasing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, and some more bad news. This election is like the first time in a long time that Dems did worse with non-college educated people than they did with college educated people.
Wait.
Or I might have messed that up. It's
college educated people?
I messed that up. My bad. It's people making under $100,000. Dems did worse than with Republicans. We did better with people making over 100,000. And that's never been the way this party was. And if they want to win elections, that has to change. More people make less than 100,000. It's just a simple numbers game. If you want to win an election, you have to appeal to the majority of people.
Do you think that came down to more like the culture war and like personality aspect of it?
I think personality is a big part. I don't know about culture though. I don't know if people necessarily care about the culture stuff.
I feel like messaging though is important.
Messaging is very important.
You know what I mean? All that kind of flows into it.
Mm-hmm. Culture. When he said culture, I took it as meaning like culture war stuff. Like
no, but I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like all of that is a part of it. You know what I mean? You sell something long enough. You know, you could make the argument. You know, I think this is a shitty idea, but I can guarantee you there's some people that voted on the idea of like, you know, Obama, Kamala, Walls, and all them being more put together and sounding less insane. You know, sounding less, you know, unhinged was like to a detriment. Like they're too pristine. You know what I mean? That kind of idea.
It's possible. The most disheartening thing, to be honest, is the woman vote. The margin stayed exactly the same for pretty much all women. I believe Latino women swung slightly towards Trump. Obviously, still favoring Dems, but I think black women swung even more for Harris than in the past. But in white women was exactly the same. So all of the abortion messaging didn't change anything. It didn't move the needle at all, which is disheartening.
Well, that's wild because it moved the needle in 2022 for the midterms a lot.
Yeah.
And then even still, when you polled and messaged, I mean, even the polling and like the questions for stuff, it's like, what's your number one topic for the white vote? You know, it's like the number one topic was basically like it was like abortion. I think one other thing that was like the main thing, like across the board. So it's odd.
The crappy thing is that, like with midterms, at least 20 years ago, it was this way where Republicans actually turned out more in midterms than Democrats did. But in the last like 2 election cycles, it's been Dems. So it's hard to take messages away from the midterms too, just because we turn out more than Republicans do. And it was right after the Dobbs ruling happened.
Based on how things went right after 2016 and what happened in 2022, I want to believe in terms of like an actual silver lining to all of this being like the reckoning of young voters and just people invigorated now to vote the other way enough. You know, like so say like the midterms, the next things that matter, like in 2 years. You know, that kind of idea, but I don't know how feasible that is anymore.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. Move this over here. Just watch this when you talk. Okay.
I know. But yeah, that's like I don't know how viable of an idea for a silver lining that can really be. So I don't know.
I think the two things that were on everyone's mind this election was the inflation and immigration. Those were like the two main things people were voting on. Basically, those were like the two main things. And for all of the good stuff that Biden did for working class people, it just wasn't felt, at least not soon enough. I have a feeling some of that stuff is going to come, and they've already kind of talked about it in the next year or two. As the economy continues to get better and better, it's just going to be felt more, but that's not really an excuse. There was more they could have done for sure. But with all that being said, he did do a lot for the economy for working class people. You just have to make it felt. But two, like you keep hinting at, the messaging. The messaging has to be better. You can't just rely on voters to see a child tax credit and not say anything about it and expect them to like want it. That's the big thing that a report came out that the child tax credit, Biden and his whole cabinet thought people were going to freak out when that went away, but they didn't. And so they didn't know like where to go from there. They didn't really think like it mattered anymore at that point. They thought it was going to be a campaign issue. The thing is, you have to make it a campaign issue. You are the ones who set the message. You have to convince people of things. So if you think you have something good for the American people, tell them about it. Tell them constantly about it. That's what Donald Trump does. He sits up there for hours saying the same stuff he said a week before. Not saying you have to do that, but just get your message out there and like hammer it on people. Especially if it's a good message, which the child tax credit was. But so that kind of hits the inflation stuff a little bit. The immigration stuff is kind of the same thing. I think their messaging needs to change. They tried to change their message, but by changing their message, they just moved it to Donald Trump's 2016 message. They basically just went, yeah, we'll like fund a wall, I guess, and be harder on immigration. So now it's just a less further right take on immigration than his is. And if someone's main issue is like immigration and they want to crack down on immigration, they no longer like, yeah, they're glad that that's your message, but they're not going to vote for you because there's someone that's more strict on it. It's just not convincing. Most people that I've ever talked to don't really think about immigrants, illegal immigrants, anything like that. They just it's kind of whatever to them. And so it's a messaging thing. They need to get a new message. They need to get new policies for immigration. Everybody wants faster and better immigration. That's a thing across party lines. So I feel like emphasizing, speeding up the immigration process is just a win all around.
I'm tired of seeing we need to look into the path to citizenship. Because every time I see that line, it just reads as like, this is not a priority for us, and like I don't really expect it to turn into anything. It'd be great if we could have someone coming to the table with at least an approach.
Yeah.
I just like it's always just the lack of an approach, like sugar coated,
Mm-hmm.
and it just screams like we're not really gonna move our feet on this, but we want it to sound nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's been 20 years of the same kind of messaging. Even Obama was very harsh on immigration. He cracked down on immigration a lot throughout his whole campaign. During that 2008 housing crisis, obviously immigration spiked, and under his administration, it was kind of the same thing. Cracked down on all that. For 20 years, it's been the same kind of messaging. We need to be harsher on immigration, but we need to speed up the process, and neither of those have really happened. Well, I guess being harsher on immigration kind of happens. It's happened very slowly, though, I would say, over the course of 20 years, but now it looks like it's going to speed up quite a bit. I heard some good stuff from her on immigration. They were talking about that border bill, which that border bill is horrendous, but it gave them a talking point which doesn't seem to have paid off. But that border bill was horrendous, but it did do a couple good things. It increased judges and stuff for the immigration process so that more people can be seen. It was going to take the asylum cases down to like 90 days, put a cap of 90 days on that. Right now, I believe there's no cap. So with asylum seekers, they could just be here for years or, potentially a decade before their case is actually seen and heard.
Is education provided to the children in those situations? Or are they just going without formal schooling for years while they're waiting?
Yeah, probably the latter there.
Yeah.
Yep. So in Republicans, this whole cycle, we're talking about 300,000 like lost kids in the U.S. and stuff. But with what you just said, they're kind of hitting at something that is partially true. Obviously, those kids weren't lost, but it is partially. They're kind of lost to like the society in a sense. They're like not part of society. Same with anyone who's seeking asylum too in a scenario like that. They I assume they can have a job, they can probably earn money and stuff, but they're not citizens. They're not going to be paying like all the they're not getting the benefits from the system that they would if they were full U.S. citizens at least.
And I feel like it's even not 100% about like what the law says you can and cannot do. Just like the fear of like, if I enroll my kid in school, will that start a process where like I'll be deported? Like,
For sure, yeah.
it doesn't matter like 100% what the proper official channels are. If there is fear that it will lead to something negative, then it might as well be like banned or not allowed.
Well, and it goes that hits on so many things because like sex trafficking is high among like immigrants and stuff, especially illegal immigrants. But that's because they cannot go to the cops for stuff like that. They can't. They'll get deported. So then it just increases stuff like that too. There's a lot of things that they just can't do for fear of being deported.
And even if those situations are fixed, it'll take a while for people to believe in them enough to turn to it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And well, on that same note, Trump won he didn't win the Latino men vote, but he got a large portion of it this time around.
Tell me the song worked.
The song worked. The song did work.
It was a long con payback for us taking Texas.
Yep. And that kind of common sentiment, though, among Latino men is the sentiment. Well, there's a couple things. For one, that pulling the ladder up behind you kind of thing. But, there is some truth to it. Most immigrants compete with each other for jobs. They don't compete with U.S. citizens for jobs. Even the poorest American citizens, they don't really compete with. It's almost always like immigrants competing with other immigrants. So there is like a specific, there's some truth to that. But the solution to that is not crack down on immigration. Immigration is a net positive for the economy. It is a huge net positive for the economy. Plus,
it makes one hell of a boogeyman, though.
It does. But with that, you have to change the messaging. The messaging has to be that, we can improve your lives. We can improve everybody's lives. It has to be, we can, increase your wages. We can provide you health care. You have to make people feel like their lives are better and that they're not like competing for their life, essentially. And that's kind of what we have. If an illegal immigrant, they can't, they can't apply for any Medicare. No, they can't apply for the ACA. They can't claim Social Security. They can't claim food stamps. They can't claim all of these things that other people in the same economic class get to claim. Now they literally are fighting for their lives. For normal U.S. citizens, what you're kind of fighting for is to not live at like, the worst means kind of in the country. But for these undocumented immigrants, they potentially are just fighting for their lives. If they get deported, they go back to some place that's potentially dangerous, some place where their life was even worse. There's a lot of stuff that increases the stakes for them.
We could go into a circle on literally all of the horrors. We could really just read Project 2025 and just be like, well, this sucks and this is bad. The real question now is what's next?
Plant a garden, save your money, and pack a bag to leave in the middle of the night.
It's all. I mean, it's all smart.
No?
It's smart.
Close friend of mine would like to burn things down.
Well, legitimately, I mean, it's the only question that matters now because you can't go backwards, right? So, yeah, it's just about let's say you lose the Super Bowl. Let's say you're playing any sport, right? You lose, your team gets eliminated out the playoffs. Well, now we got to plan for next season type of thing. Where are the steps to go next is the real question. So I guarantee there are millions of people right now struggling for the right answers to fix or come out of this with some level of a positive trajectory. So that's kind of I guess that's the only real pressing question that needs to be asked or answered.
I feel like support the people close in your local area in the short term and set the foundation to have some sort of impact on the greater country long term.
Yeah. Yeah, all that. Building a stronger community is just going to be a big thing, especially if you're like legitimately at risk of some of the stuff they've been talking about. Having neighbors and stuff that you can trust and rely on is a big deal, especially if things go as bad as they could. But yeah, just try and get people, like-minded people around you.
This does feel like Avengers. Not in a good way.
It could be.
Not in a good way. Legitimately, like, I mean, I'm using that because it's really legitimately the only analogy I can think of, where it's like everyone loses, everyone's fucked, everyone's hurt, everyone's in pain. No one is coming out of this on top, and it's tricky and it's hard.
I'm ready for the moment where all the portals open up and starts snowing.
There was 5 years of pain before that.
Yeah. Not for some of them. Some of them it was just, oh, we're back. Shit.
You guys remember the www.didthanosKillMe thing? It was like trendy.
Yeah.
Right after Infinity War, somebody made like a website where all you have to do is click the website and it'll just say one of two things, like you were spared for the fate of the universe, or like you've been sacrificed for the fate of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I died.
Yeah.
It took me like 3 tries to survive. So for me, I'm one of the people that didn't age and snap. Just came back. It's like, oh, it's rough.
Yeah. Well, basically the mainstream media has been having a meltdown since the election, obviously.
Yeah.
There's been a bunch of different factions getting formed, all vying for like different futures for the Democratic Party. Obviously, there's some that have been basically saying they need to move more rightward, which is insane to me. But then there's been factions kind of with Bernie, and then there's a bunch of people in between. But that'll determine where they go next. But obviously, I think there's one right path and one that's not.
Well, I still can't even watch people react because that's just gonna be too painful. That's just gonna hurt. Like, I can't watch The View now, and I mean that seriously. I can't watch The View, SNL. I mean, I watched Bill Burr. He had a monologue. I love Bill Burr. It was like whatever. um, that was hard to get through. Like Weekend Update, I just we just watched the trailers off my phone, and they got the recommended for like the watch the Weekend Update. I just another 4 years of like mainstream media outlets suffering along through with us. I remember the 2016 through 2020. It's like very much using comedy to cope with all of the horrors of our current political state and who's in the main office, But it's worse this time around because you don't want to go backwards, right? But it feels like you took 80 million steps backwards. It's a worse version of 2016 in every aspect. And I don't know. I'm exhausted with the thought of trying to utilize the next 4 years via comedy and other outlets to try to cope and get through. I don't want to have to do that again. Like if I'm, I mean, I just it's a redux of what we've already tried to do to cope as much as possible. You know what I mean?
I I do. I think this cycle is going to be different. Um, I think people are kind of over the daily news of Trump, and so mainstream media I think is gonna kind of follow what they were doing before, where every day they broke down everything Trump did. Every day it was Trump. I don't think that's gonna happen this time. I think they'll do it for a time, but I don't think people are interested this time. Um, I
That kind of shows in the assassination attempt having like no lasting effects at
yeah,
all.
yep,
Like,
yep, for sure.
That fucker could shoot. You guys said that too yesterday? No, it was somebody else. I was explaining to somebody yesterday, like what you told me. So essentially,
Yeah,
that fucker could shoot.
yeah, bad shot.
The bright colors.
what are the odds we would have got JD Vance from the jump if that happened?
No shot.
Small.
Yeah, I think no shot.
Elon Musk is VP.
Wild.
It's the dark timeline. If they won, oh my god. Not that I think it even matters. I think Trump's gonna kind of just be a puppet anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he was a puppet the last time.
Kinda, but the thing was, he at least for like the first 2 years he was in office, he had like just regular Republicans in his cabinet. Like, who the fuck was his chief of staff? Rance Priebus. Like, and just like normal Republicans, and like obviously they all quit and or got fired and stuff, but that's because they're like, what the fuck is going on here? But now it just feels different. Now it feels like someone else is telling him things to do.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's not smart enough to do it. Listen, the Heritage Foundation is effectively the president for 4 years the first time. Heritage Foundation is essentially the president again.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Fun times, fun times ahead.
that's a good, write that down. That's a good podcast name.
Fun times ahead.
Possibly.
Oh, that is actually good. Welcome back to Fun Times Ahead. As we talk about some fucked up stuff.
As we're for the audience, we're still workshopping the name. Go more bro centric. We're figuring it out.
Put it in the comments. Your
Yeah, and by the way, while we're at it, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe,
Yeah,
It's easy.
Ring
It's
the-
right there.
ring the bell,
ring that bell.
get all the notifications. So you're notified every time we post a drop a video.
Check us out on every platform that podcasts are available on.
At 1,000 subscribers, we will post a picture of our nipples. At 50K, it is feet pics.
Sweet.
Have you guys seen the mascot for the Vatican?
No,
No? Get on it.
the Vatican has a
Go on that
mascot.
train. The Pope dropped a mascot, and there's a lot of porn of it.
What?
There's a lot of porn of it.
Who's making the porn?
Yeah, you know, your everyday angels.
It's just
Official. That's
Just-
the official.
just
mascot.
made to be like lolly porn.
And they made it, and the world received it.
Apparently. Wow. What a weird mascot for the
I haven't
Vatican.
seen it.
No, I don't think people asked for it. They just did it.
Why?
Yep.
That is a weird mascot. Not gonna lie. Did they just try to make like a modern woman, like a modern small child?
I think they were trying to appeal to young people, but then the world got their hands on it, and it got out of control.
I must have appealed to young people.
Yeah, a little bit too much.
I have a question. This one is like, all right, so we're all right to digress into one specific area, go into some culture war shit, right? I am terrified of the generation coming up and what the messaging is going to be for young men specifically, right? Where are we going in terms of gender dynamics? Because it feels like we're about to take huge steps backwards.
I think it's split and gone in both extremes. There's no like mainstream route anymore. It's just like two very different ones.
Okay. The general thing that irks me on a daily basis is it really does feel like, you know, you have so much social progression, and then the adverse effect is just to go people to go even more intensely against, right? So legitimately feminists are losing the battle of what's cool and what's not in the worst ways. Some people just hear feminists and they are immediately like embarrassed of the concept, right? So you're losing the battle right now. You're losing the battle in a rough way. Also, just that pro, it's seemingly it's pseudo pro male, but it's really more just like anti woman sentiment and more fragile masculinity that we got on all these bro podcasts. I think it's trending in the wrong direction for like everybody coming up, the generations coming up. Can you imagine if they had that shit back when we were teenagers? All these
I had shitty views when I was a teenager. I don't want to think how much I would have gone along with that shit.
That's what I'm getting at is I remember being more co-opted even in my early 20s with certain messaging and things like that back in the day, and I'm glad I got away from that shit. But again, now with the way our social media is, it's even more expansive. There's so many more outlets to just cater towards your sensibilities seemingly, but really it's your main fears and insecurities. You know,
Mm.
more people willing to tell others to not do the work to try to be, you know, accommodating and compassionate. You get more people trying to say, "Nah, they're wrong. Fuck that."
On that note, Tim Walz, I feel at the start of the campaign was doing that quite a bit. He was talking about being neighborly is like being a good thing, like not judging your neighbors, being nice to your neighbors, that kind of stuff. I feel like that's a good start, but they shut that stuff down pretty quick. But that messaging has to continue into the future. That your fellow U.S. citizens aren't evil people.
Yeah.
Just in general, like, yeah, it's bad. Your Logan Paul podcast. What's that one guy, Matt something? Your Joe Rogan experiences and shit. Like, none of that stuff favors the right ideals. It's just a lot of fragile masculinity roped into, just a different version of that, a different person saying the same shit over and over again. So that's depressing to think about.
I think part of it too, though, is that a lot of what's the right way to phrase it? A lot of like people more on the right just kind of listen to podcasts like all day, or they'll watch their favorite news source just kind of all day. And I think most normal people outside of politics, that's what I mean by normal, don't really do that. I think they just kind of watch, like, they might watch the news once or twice a week kind of thing, and that's kind of all they get, like, political wise. Whereas other people are just getting, like, inundated with, all this stuff every day, all day long. Because like you just said, there's the Joe Rogan podcast, but then there's like a dozen other podcasts that all orbit his. They're all like on each other's shows and stuff.
It's like me, they're all essentially the same.
Yeah, and kind of like Daily Wire, that too. I feel like if you're a Daily Wire watcher, you probably watch all of them. You're probably watching Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, like all of them. You probably don't just watch one.
I think it's important to state, even though you can definitely surmise where we're coming from, what our stances are, but I think it's very important to state kind of who we are, where we stand on things, and put a name to it. You know what I mean? Put the labels in for the audience. You can go first.
I'm a libertarian.
Former.
Yeah, former libertarian. No, I'm
Once worked for Marco Rubio.
I wish I had when I was a kid. I wish I was going to. No, I would just say I'm left. I would just say that. Social Democrat. I'll go with that title. Social Democrat.
Hi, I'm Austin. I'm a bleeding heart communist. Yes.
What up? I'm Jalen, Democratic Socialist.
That's the word I was looking for.
Well, there is two different versions.
Social Democrat is less left though. That's yeah.
Kyle Kalinske lined it out in a video. Go check out his stuff. like he's gonna get views off them.
Go check out these much larger people.
Yeah, give him some likes. He's good. Get him off the ground.
If you haven't heard of Mr. Beast, I can only.
Yeah. Yeah, go watch, Mr. Beast, fucking Vanoss Gaming.
He had a video like a couple years ago lining out the differences because people use them kind of interchangeably, but they're different. Social Democrat and Democratic Socialist, but also I think, I'm far away from hopium. I think I won't have any hopium for this country for like 10 more years of my life. But as far as the direction to go next, I truly believe that be the loudest in the room. You know, talk about messaging and shit like that. That's what I'm getting at. Is like, listen, if they got 1 million podcasts, then we need 1 million podcasts. If they're gonna scream to the rooftops a bunch of dumb Nazi shit, then we gotta do the opposite, right? To go even further down the road. Like, for years now, like when I mentioned the feminism thing and how people kind of use it as like a dirty word or something to laugh at. You know, for years I'm like, yeah, no, I'm a feminist. Yeah, what about it? And scream it from the rooftops. I think a part of this is going the next route to match their level of volume. Tit for tat every single which way. On every bit of messaging.
Being clear is being kind. You don't want to assume that, like, people just know stuff. So, yeah, I agree.
With the all the podcasting stuff, what I'll say on it is I actually already think there's plenty of left-wing podcasts. They just don't get the funding that the right-wing do. And to get into our socialist bag, that's always going to be the case, at least for the foreseeable future, because all these right-wing podcasts are protecting the elites, the people making all the money. Hassan's the biggest one, but he's talking about taking these people's money, these people's power. Why would they ever promote him? So it's just always going to be that way. But in my opinion, there's plenty of like left-wing content out there. It's just does not get the shine or
agreement from the rooftops. There's got to be a way beyond that. Because I agree with you, right? There's plenty of places, right? Again, shout out Kyle Kalinske. Check out the guy. No, but legitimately, there's a lot of outlets, obviously, on left-wing stuff, too. And you're right, they're never going to have the biggest audience, but you can try as much as possible. There's got to be a way around that. Money is the ultimate, right? So, most people are, like, right-leaning, have all the money type of thing. But there's enough people, I feel like there's enough money to be made, There's enough to monetize left wing wise as well. There's left leaning, say, one percenters that could do a lot of the funding. It's just about getting everybody on the right page and organizing that.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that funding has no effect, but I feel like on the stage of the internet, funding doesn't necessarily mean more reach.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
Hassan's like always in the top 3 on Twitch, for instance, too.
I just think about, like, let's say YouTube, right? The amount of times I have to get like YouTube recommended ads of right leaning stuff is around the clock, years long. You know what I mean? And no matter how many times you say I don't want ads like this, I don't want anything in this realm, or I don't agree with blah blah blah, they're still hitting you nonstop with their messaging, with their people. But that starts with the money behind it, right?
I That definitely has like an effect, like under the surface with people. I make sure I keep one cop on Facebook to avoid an echo chamber. Like I just want to like see like at least a little bit of what's going on the other side.
Yeah.
In case I did end up like wrapped up in something that like sounds good the way it's presented, but doesn't actually play out or check out.
Mm-hmm.
So like not a shout out, but shout out the one cop on my Facebook to be just to be like
Like,
if they're passing out Kool-Aid, she's not drinking Kool-Aid. So like maybe there could be something there.
again, scream it all from the rooftops. Even like, say, like, we were talking about democratic socialists, right? Get the grab, order the flag, put the flag out there the way how these fuckers always have their shit out. You know what I mean? They've spent years having to put it all up in your fucking face. Don't tread on me and all this other dumb shit. Do the same thing in the other, on the other end. And then eventually people who are less informed about anything, they're going to ask about it. They're going to inquire about it. Like, I feel like there's an avenue to go if it's collective enough across the nation where, let's say, you're really pushing democratic socialism or whatever, that it becomes a word that it's present and everybody knows what it is. That's a realm to go next, right?
Be careful though, guys. don't put a democratic socialist flag out if like you're trans or something for probably the next 4 years.
Yeah.
You use caution.
But legitimately, that's what I mean. Like, you gotta match the energy at this point now. Subtlety is out the window. There's people now who are in elected positions that say Nazi shit daily, and there's nothing that was done about it, right? So now you gotta match the energy. You gotta fight them where they're fighting you. That means go low. If that means scream from the rooftops like they scream from the rooftops. If that means be as obnoxious as they are, then be as obnoxious as they are. Because, and this is something that Democrats should have been learned a long time ago. Taking the high road means fuck all. Long time.
Yep. Well, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest takeaways. Liberalism failed.
Yeah.
It's failed us. We've now elected Donald Trump twice. Like, we need a new path forward. Liberalism is not combating, this new wing of right-wing populism effectively.
Can you imagine if, like, on the debate stage, Kamala's just like, "You're a fucking Nazi."
Mm-hmm.
Like, you say Nazi shit, you're a fucking, like,
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I don't disagree with it, but that word has been watered down so much that like.
Okay, then you're a fucking rapist too.
Yeah.
That one's got a couple years left till it means nothing to the masses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They abandoned the messaging at the beginning part of the campaign for Kamala and Tim Walz with calling Republicans weird, and then you're campaigning with Liz Cheney by the end. But that was the route to take. It was just calling it out and calling it for what you see it as.
I think the weird messaging was like a good middle ground between just calling them Nazis and doing nothing.
Yeah.
I feel like weird was a good way because
But fuck a middle ground at this point.
part of the problem though is that Biden for 4 years was doing that. He was trying to take the middle ground.
I know.
He constantly called like Donald Trump, deplorable, like all kinds of stuff. And he would always make the distinction between Republicans and MAGA Republicans in order to like basically talk shit about Trump and his supporters. He was trying to take that middle ground, and it didn't work still. So maybe taking the middle ground is not the right way to go either.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just go all the fucking way the other way.
I can see it both ways though, being good and bad. Part of what I liked about the weird messaging is no one likes to think of themselves as being weird for the most part.
Which is why,
but
that's why it would work, because it's like public shaming. To a degree. It's like, I don't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, the weird messaging, it was good enough to maybe make people feel like, yeah, this is like a little uncomfortable agreeing with these people over here on this side. It might have been effective at that. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see it for like a whole election cycle to like really know, but yeah.
No, I think you go. I think you reflect the energy now at this point, because and then I wouldn't even play middle ground with it. Did that work out long term? 4 years of Biden trying to be. I mean, that was his messaging this whole time. In fact, when he stepped down and became Kamala's campaign, they finally started to actually hit back at Republicans more intensely.
Mm-hmm.
Biden always wanted to be the nice guy about it. Look at where it got the Democratic Party now. That's what I'm saying. I'm like, listen, all bets are off. You might as well try some shit that's different, that's completely out the window. That's why I'm saying, like, let's just like, now I'm fully in the phase of I'm gonna be a left version of whatever the fuck they are. Like that dumb shit next door. Just signs and stupid shit for no fucking reason. Why not? A million stickers on your car for no fucking reason. Why not?
I think this all has to be paired with like an economic populist message though too. I think yelling at people, if Dems do go down the route you're saying, if they do it without an economic message that's going to speak to people, it's not going to work. The economic message, in my opinion, has to be the priority. It has to be the first thing. It has to be
sponsored by Budweiser.
Thank you, Budweiser.
The king of beers.
Yep. Sure.
I'm good.
The economic message has to be the priority.
Man, that's good. All right, go ahead. Keep going. I forgot what their slogan was, so I just.
It's something with horses, I think.
Something with horses. Yee. Giddy up.
Do this one-handed. That would have been cool for the podcast if I could.
Just smack it off with the edge of your desk.
Yeah. The economic message is the most important thing, though. It's what's going to speak to people the most. Knowing that they have enough money for food and their housing is always the priority. If people feel those needs are met and that Dems are pushing for, them to, have greater prosperity, I feel like most people generally aren't going to care about messaging on like culture war stuff. I really don't.
Again, everything is connected.
Yes.
Is connected, right? Everything bleeds into another. So you're right. There has to be the economic messaging along with it. You can parlay that in there too. Somehow along the way over the past however many years, Republicans won the battle of saying like Democrats are the elite, when we know for full certainty that they're the elite. They're the bigger part of corruption in Washington. Like, it's amazing that they've won that battle, but that's because they they never shut the fuck up about it. Like you said earlier about Trump rambles for 3 hours and just says the same shit, and then they'll say the same thing the next week, and it can all be lies and everything else. Say it endlessly, and then it resonates with the general populace. It makes no sense why factually we know that literally Washington is more corrupt, billionaires are more corrupt, and all of that is more right leaning in every faction of it. By in every facet. And literally since 2016, he's like, we need to drain the swamp of all the corrupt people. It's like you're the fucking most corrupt.
Calls coming from inside the house.
And if messaging, if say years back Democrats had spewed that messaging on the other end, we wouldn't be in this state right now. You understand what I mean? Like, call it out for what it is and be frank and honest about it, because that's all the American people want at this point. You don't need a ton of large words and platitudes. Say it for what it is. Speak to the average American person. The average American person, like our two brothers, who's not seeing everything, but they could hear some shit, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you say it from the rooftops in the right way enough times, loud enough, it gets to everyone of like, I don't know, a fucking Republican. Those guys are fucking weird. They're creeps. They do Nazi shit or whatever. Like, one of those things is gonna come through. That's what I'm getting at.
And a large part of the way to move forward, though, is going to be found when they're in office. Because right now we're just speculating what's going to happen and what they're going to do. That could all change day one. Day one, who knows what could happen? We could start a war somewhere that no one ever thought was possible. Like, literally anything could happen.
I think it's important to also state where we're at all interpersonally, in terms of like for instance, like talk about careers and like what our stakes are in this moment and why it matters so much. We'll start with you again, since you're bland as bread. just
Right under the bus.
all right.
What are we doing?
Yeah. So obviously, I am of African American descent, cisgender, straight male.
Oh, that's what you wanted.
Work in education.
Okay.
So, and I work in public education. So that's one of the reasons why, because I know there's an assault on the truth. There's an assault on factual evidence. There's an assault on the true history and the bloodiness of it in this country, and where we're going in that route in terms of education and for our youth and for our future and for generations beyond us is legitimately up for grabs in the worst way possible. It is quite alarming.
I'm gay.
I'm gonna give you a chance. We can edit this out. I'm gonna give you a chance to say you're straight so that you can stay hidden for the next 4 years.
I'm gay.
All right.
I'm gay.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tried it out. Big fan.
You're gonna be in a conversion camp.
I also work in education. I work with students who have recently immigrated to the United States, so the whole immigration things will have an effect on me. I signed a contract that I will stay with my school district for a set amount of years for them to pay for my master's degree. So I'm a little tied down to it. Does that contract stay valid if there's no Department of Education? Does that void it?
I think it might.
Maybe.
Probably
Let's
is.
hope.
Just hanging out in an abandoned school.
Ideally, things will go well, but if they go bad, let's have them go real bad.
You also spent some time with a lot of time with the Hispanic community, right?
Yeah.
I'm teeing you up.
I feel like a lot of people want to be able to put all Latinos into one nice clean box, and that's not gonna work. Each one is an individual like any other group, and there's not really like trends that follow for a significant part. Everyone has their own views. And Latin America is a very Catholic, very traditional place. So when that comes into the U.S. and it mixes, some people are surprised with what ends up on the other side, but I think it kind of checks out that in Latin America, your like progressive movements are new and small, so it'd be weird to expect that people who immigrate from those countries to suddenly be in that camp.
Mm-hmm.
also lived in Mexico for a while.
Yeah.
I really want you to say that.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were getting.
Oh no! I've lived in Mexico and Brazil, both for short amounts of time. But yeah,
He's an honorary brown person.
it's a big world out there.
Yeah. I'm your average Trump supporter. I'm a white straight male. We're not doing so well. Yeah, I'm about as bland as a U.S. citizen can be. We all grew up here in the same town, rural Illinois. Obviously, Austin's been all over the place. I lived in Florida for a few years, but now have moved back. Yeah, and just been doing car detailing for pretty much that whole time. Opened up my own business down there, actually, so I'm technically a business owner. But yeah, didn't work out.
It's okay. Trump's had plenty of bankruptcies too.
I know, yeah, me and him,
And you can still be
we're-
the president.
we're similar. Yeah. No, pretty much it.
I think it says a lot, with Cameron's background and his relatively straight-laced, background because, this election means nothing to him. We're talking about all this and its negative effects, but he's the only one here who's still flying fine.
If they come for us, I'll just pretend like I'm one of you. What do you
Roll
mean?
Tide.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the dress down ready, wearing hats all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Cameron will be just fine.
I'll fit right back in.
Yep, you can just slide back in.
I grew up in a very conservative household, so I was a conservative for probably till I was like 20. 18 to 20, I was like kind of in between trying to find what I really believe. But yeah, so I'll just start talking like I used to. Just
Somehow we were all friends still.
yeah.
Are hats Republican?
The red one is.
For white guys. All right, y'all. That's gonna be it for this one. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, click the bell as well. You'll see us again real soon. Always remember what's up is down, what's right is left, but there's plenty of fun times ahead. Let's get it.
Drink water. Stretch your legs, breathe fresh air. Catch you next.
God bless.